So I have a real treat today. A good friend of mine from Cleveland and is now a rabbi in Israel in a small community called Sur Hadassah, which is right outside of Jerusalem. She is at Kehilat Shir Chadash, which is a Reform synagogue, in Israel. And we welcome her, Rabbi Stacey Blank. Thanks for being here.
Shalom.
Shalom. So I wanted to ask you some questions for our community to hear from you. So then the first question was to learn a little bit about the Reform movement in Israel and where it is today, where it's been, and where it's going.
Okay, thanks. So the Reform movement started with one congregation in Jerusalem, which I think is now 60 years old, but the movement itself is about 30, 40 years old and is growing all the time. That's what's very exciting. So my community just celebrated its 20th anniversary. So we're not babies anymore, but we're still a growing community, a young community. There are about 40 congregations throughout Israel, and every year we're trying to add more initiatives, and even we have rabbis who travel around regional councils visiting kibbutzim and small communities to bring people closer to Judaism. And I'm very optimistic. We see the statistics in Israel, which nobody believed at first, but just to give an idea that they did a survey and they found that 7% of Israelis, which is a couple 100,000 people, identify with Reform and Conservative Judaism. So we can see that the people are being exposed, and every day people are being exposed. They come to bar mitzvah ceremonies in my community. They come to my classes. It's the first time they met Reform Judaism, and they like it. Yeah. So I'm very optimistic. I think we're growing all the time.
When we were in Jerusalem this summer, and we were in just a taxi cab, and we had heard that there was a Kabbalat Shabbat service at the old train station, and we asked the taxi driver to take us there, and he said, the Reform service.
And, there you go.
So,
nice.
so you're seeing that language expressed throughout Israel as more exposure is happening.
And in a positive way.
In a very positive way, yeah, and it's exciting. I think beyond, of course, the movement and what's happening, obviously our members are interested in the elections. So there's going to be elections in Israel. The Prime Minister, I think it was announced that he would be indicted. Has he been indicted?
He has been indicted.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
on Thursday they announced
which has
it.
certainly changed the dynamics, not from his perspective, but from pretty much everybody else's. So what's your view of all of that?
Right, so I can say as of today we have a whole month of election time, and a lot is going to happen between now and then.
Yeah.
So you have all the indictment, and you have also the unification of a few prominent figures in this new blue and white party, which pose themselves Benny Gantz and Yair Lapid and a few other former generals, and they put themselves as the middle, the center, mainstream. Yep. Maybe even a little bit right. Yep. As the alternative to Netanyahu. That's really their main slogan. Right. And even they've said they would form a coalition with the Likud if Netanyahu was not in it. And anyone who would like to see that happen sees this party as perhaps the actual viable chance of that happening. That being said, you have to see what's going to happen within the Likud. There's two things to watch for. One is how the activists in Likud, if they'll continue to support Netanyahu, he won't have his hearing till after the election. So we're not going to have any more developments regarding the indictment. That's it. Right. So how they will stick to him or not. And the other thing is that Netanyahu has made a partnership with the Jewish Home Party, which has returned to its more orthodox traditional roots, and they have a coalition with a very right-wing party called Jewish Strength, which has ties to the old Kahana Party, a very extremely right-wing party that was outlawed by Israel. Yeah. So the Israel Religious Action Center of our movement, with a coalition of other partners, has introduced a petition to outlaw also this party. But it is very troubling to see the Likud joining with such a right-wing, racist, elitist, I would say, in the American version of white supremacist kind of party. Really,
in our newspapers here, the sort of the American Jewish response to this has been pretty loud.
Yes.
What about in Israel itself, just in the Israeli public? Is Is there
Yeah,
sort
it's
of horror
troubling.
and-
It's troubling.
Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes, absolutely.
So there's going to be a lot happening in Israel.
Oh yeah,
in the next
follow
few
the
months,
news.
right?
It's gonna be
Yeah.
wild.
So one of the reasons that Stacey's here is to introduce our community to what's happening in her community, but also to encourage us to even go out and go to Israel and visit her. And so I wanted to have you give sort of a final message to Beth Shalom.
Yes, what I've been coming and speaking in all kinds of congregations is to really share with you some of the stories from our community, because I know that when you read the headlines, you don't really see the real Israel. It's important, but the most important thing is for her to be having conversations like we're having, and whatever you know about Israel, don't ever think that you know enough. Always be going out and seeking people to speak with, to hear the stories, and to come and visit. In the beginning of 2020, we're going to have elections of the World Zionist Organization, which I'm sure your rabbis will share more about. But it's a chance for you to vote in what is basically the government of the Jewish people. Send votes for Artza, for the Reform Zionists in Israel, which gives us funds and influence in Israel, and will make Israel the place that you're going to feel proud of. And when you visit, you're going to really feel at home. So that's my message. We have to speak more and work together more, and we can do it together.
Awesome. Stacey, thank you so much.
Okay,
Thanks
so
for being
Dara
here.
Rabbi.
Thank you as well. Okay.